What's in this box, Gordon?
This is HP's new-ish. It was announced a few months ago, finally now available. It is the HP Spectre x360 2-in-1 laptop 16. It's basically a 16-inch Spectre x360. We're gonna open it up. I do want to give the normal warning. This is not a review. We're simply unboxing it because people like to see it come out of the box. We're gonna do a few quick tests at the back end, but let's get into this laptop and what its strengths are and kind of what its weaknesses are going to be in the day and age that it's going into. But first, let's give you the full unboxing experience. This is one thing I really love about HP. They give you these sleeves.
This isn't a case, this is a sleeve.
It's a sleeve, which is great because I love the fact that you can basically get this laptop and they give you this, you know, leatherette sleeve. It gives you protection for your laptop the day you get it, so that's before you scratch the hell out of it. Velcro.
That's not real leather though, right?
It's synthetic leather. I'm not sure. This one might be actually leather. I'm not exactly clear on this. To me, it doesn't really matter, but the fact is you're getting this in the box when you get this laptop. Let's look at the laptop itself. Here we go.
Oh, that looks big.
It looks big because it is a 16-inch laptop.
And convertible.
Convertible? Yeah, I mean, having convertible means a stronger hinge, more metal for that hinge. Generally, convertibles add a little bit of weight to a laptop. Also, convertibles are almost always touch. So when you do touch, that means glass. Glass is heavy, plastic is light. So let's crack this thing open. Okay. Let's see what else you get in the box. So we get our power brick.
Oh, that looks like a big power brick.
Yeah, it's 135 watts, pretty decent size. Also, interestingly, barrel charger or DC-in, conventional DC-in with a Mickey Mouse connector.
Well, why not USB-C?
Well, because it's 135 watts and a lot of USB-C. There is a new higher wattage power spec. This is above the older one. The newer ones are still coming out, and it's not really clear whether we're going to see that adopted by a lot of laptop users, a lot of laptop makers. But this is also what I want to point out, because this is a great feature that HP gives you, is they give you a pen. There's actually spare tips in the box, and they actually give you a pen that I believe connects on here magnetically, it looks like. That's what the little, where does it go on there? Yeah, so somehow,
oh, there it is.
Connects to that magnetically.
Oh, okay.
Let's crank it up. This has the oh, they've actually changed it a little bit. So let's do the ports. People love looking at the ports. I believe that's a Thunderbolt. We have our power in, micro SD card reader, a second Thunderbolt port, which is nice because you can actually, you know, run your mouse off of here. This will probably also likely charge off of a standard USB-C charger, but again, 100 watts is the limit of the older USB PD spec. This is 135 watts, so they went with the barrel connector. And one advantage I want to point out, because people really do get ugly about having to use a barrel connector, but this gives you power in, and it gives you 2 more ports. If this were USB-C, they generally don't give you an additional charging port. It just simply takes away one of your charging ports. The other side, we get our combo jack, full-size HDMI, and USB. Oh no, wait. Oh yeah, a USB-A with a drop-down port.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Yeah, HP as long ago said they played with the USB-C thing only, and they know people get activated if there's no USB-A. So they are making sure that the USB-A is on there, even though you got to do this drop-down port.
Still, it's not bad.
Not bad though. So let's crank it up. Let me tell you what's inside of this baby. This is the part that's going to be controversial. Oh, I like it. So traditionally, a lot of these convertibles, they would put the power switches on the side, right? Let me tell you, every time you pick your laptop up and you hit that button, the laptop goes to standby. So everybody's kind of said, you know what? Nobody ever really uses it in tablet mode all the time. We're going to put it on the top which is way more useful. Of course, you're seeing speakers here. We see a fingerprint reader.
Oh, wow. That's a weird placement.
Yeah, it's nice. So you're getting your full finger fingerprint reader. This camera is also Hello, Windows Hello. It's also one of the cool features of this laptop. HP has been pushing it for a little while. It's a 5 megapixel webcam. 5 megapixel. Okay. So most laptops that you get are basically 1 megapixel, 720p. The coolness is to get a 1080p webcam, right? That's 1 megapixel, 2 megapixels? 2 megapixels, right? So this is a 5 megapixel webcam on this laptop. It is, of course, with Windows 11. So before I'm going to bother with the logins thing that's going to just bust everything, let's talk about what's inside this laptop. Inside is an Intel Core i7-11390H, which, of course, you go, oh, it must be...
Using a screen reader. Turn on narrator by pressing Windows plus Control plus Enter.
Doesn't that sound like the YouTube person? The YouTube lady?
Or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
That's not Cortana.
It's not Cortana. That sounds like the YouTube lady. The one that does all the ads.
The TikTok, yeah.
Is that the, yeah. It's, okay, they've obviously added the YouTube lady into Windows 11. So the Core i7-11390H is not what you think it is. You hear H, you think, oh my gosh, 8 cores, 6 cores, 14 cores. This is actually, as we just said, an 11th gen 11390H. That is a quad-core Tiger Lake CPU. Yes, 11th gen Tiger Lake. It's basically like a hopped-up Core i7-1185G7, basically.
Wait, but why not 12th gen, Gordon?
Why not 12th gen? My guess is probably 12th gen wasn't really available when this laptop was made and announced. And you can also argue, I mean, that you don't really need more than 4 cores, because since this is a Tiger Lake, the original Tiger Lake 11th gen part, running at a higher TDP at 35 watts, it's only got 4 cores. A lot of people go, oh my God, 4 cores versus a Ryzen with 8 cores, or a Ryzen with 6 cores, or a 12th gen with 14 cores? Sounds crazy, but I would say it may not be as bad as you think it is, because for most consumers, you don't need all those cores. We're going to find out. We'll run a couple quick benchmarks just to give you an idea of how it looks. We got into the camera. You know it's a quad-core Core i7 Tiger Lake H35. They don't call it that anymore. That's what I still call it to help me understand. It's only a quad-core only. Also, the GeForce badge tells you Nvidia GeForce RTX GPU inside. It is an RTX 3050 with Max-Q technologies. That's kind of handy. A lot of people go like, well, 3050 minuses, it's not exactly a stupidly fast part, especially in ray tracing performance. But the nice thing about getting an RTX 3050 that people really need to consider is you're getting the full encoder. So if they had used, say, an MX GPU in this, you would not get the encoding engine that Nvidia brings. That's only in GTX, that's only in RTX. And if they'd put, say, a GTX in here instead of an RTX, you wouldn't get DLSS. So a 3050, even though it's not the most tuned up part, gives you DLSS. It gives you an NV Ink engine. Those are just far better improvements over a standard MX or a GTX part, if you ask me. Especially if you're going to do, say, like Premiere or other things that might need this course. And even for gaming, DLSS is, a lot of people would say, far more valuable for gaming than ray tracing performance. I do want to find out how much this thing weighs, because that's very important to me. Do we want to do that at the end, or should we do it now? Okay, let's do it right now, because 16-inch laptop, 1610. Oh, I do want to point out UHD Plus. That's basically a 2400p panel, so basically 4K plus, right? That means glass, that means heavier. We have the hinge, we already know that's heavier. Let's find out how much this laptop weighs, because that's going to sort of make, so 4 pounds, 5 ounces. Not exactly light. And a lot of that's going to come from the Gorilla Glass. You know, they have to put tempered glass on here to give it some protection. That adds quite a bit of weight to a laptop. And then also the hinges adds quite a bit of weight. And because it is convertible, you have to make it a little sturdier. So not as light as I would have expected. I thought it would have been under 4 pounds. So the problem at 4 pounds, 5 ounces is you're kind of bumping up against other laptops that are equally as heavy that have way more hardware. I've seen 8-core, 11th gen laptops with 3070s that weigh less than this laptop. They did not have touch. They were not convertibles. And also the one thing I'm not including is the weight of this brick. The weight of this brick probably is, gosh, let's find out. What is just the total package? So 5 pounds. Even those other laptops that might be lighter, their power bricks are generally about a pound because they're pushing 180 watts, 230 watts to run all that hardware inside. So you do save a little bit of weight by that. Also, you're getting touch, you're getting pen. But let's see. We're going to run a few quick benchmarks. Remember, this is not a review, but let's get an idea of where an 11th gen quad core with RTX 3050 works into our world, where we now have 14 core 12th gen parts starting to come out. We have AMD's stellar Ryzen 6000 here, so we're going to run a few tests, come right back and take a look. Hey, we're back, and I just want to give you the warning again. This is not a review. We've just run a few benchmarks to give you an idea where the HP Spectre x360 16 falls. If you were to buy it, we're going to start off with Cinebench R20 NT. This is basically using all the cores, all the threads of a CPU in a laptop to look at performance. This laptop, again, is a quad-core Tiger Lake UP3 that basically boosts it up to 35 watts. And the performance is what you expect when you're putting it up against 14-core, 8-core, bigger, heavier, more powerful laptops. It gets pounded, no surprise, especially by that very big, much heavier laptop at the top of this list. Even against most of the 8-core CPUs, though, it's not looking great. Some of those 8-core laptops are actually as light as this laptop. One of them is even lighter with that Ryzen. That doesn't look good, but I will point out that the score for the HP Spectre x360 and its Core i7-11390H is actually as fast as a 6-core Core i7-9750. That is, of course, a 9th gen 6-core. You're going to get the same performance out of a 6th gen 10th core H part, but this 4-core Tiger Lake part is actually just as fast in Cinebench, which is a little embarrassing for that 6-core CPU. And again, if you're looking for more cores to push 3D modeling, to push CPU-based encoding, you're going to want to go bigger and heavier. This is not going to really work for you. The good thing is the world is not all about multi-core performance, and so we run Cinebench R20 using a single core or a single thread. This actually gives you a better idea of how a laptop will perform in, say, browsing, Photoshop, doing your taxes. A lot of tasks, a lot of applications just simply don't use all the cores, so that 8-core or 14-core laptop doesn't really get you much. And in fact, this may be more valuable to most people. And you can see Tiger Lake, even though it is a quad core, even though it is one generation behind the 12th gen, it's pretty respectable. At 608, it's basically every bit as fast as AMD's new Ryzen almost, just about. And it is also every bit as fast as the other 11th gen H parts that are hotter. Probably the only thing that would be faster are the 12th gen laptops now, but it's not a huge amount. Going from 608 to 691 or 696 might be hard for people to feel. They are still definitely faster by a good clip, but honestly, the messaging is if you're going to do Word, if you're going to do PowerPoint, if you're going to do Outlook and browsing, even Photoshop, the performance on this laptop will be perfectly fine. The last couple things we're going to look at are graphics performance. It does have a GeForce RTX 3050, no TI, and also 40 watt TGP. That's a pretty low wattage for a discrete graphics card. Again, it is a fairly thin laptop. And 3050 no TI at that TGP is going to get its clock clean by just about everything here. Looking at time spy overall at 3,650. That's no comparison to anything here. Even the 3050 Ti at 60 watts is quite a bit faster in time spy. So 3D performance, not the greatest. And the last one is even more ugly. This is 3D Mark Port Royal. It looks at ray tracing performance of a graphics chip. Again, it's a little unfair because we are putting this laptop against much, much larger laptops. But some of those laptops are as light as this laptop. Some of them even a little bit smaller. So I would say maybe it's a little fair, but the Port Royal performance is pretty horrible. We've seen the 3050 Ti give you a pretty subpar performance in 3D Mark Port Royal, and we're seeing even worse with the RTX 3050 at 40 watts. It's 358, which is it's about a third of the 3050 Ti, which is already a pretty sad 1,042. When you're looking at every other laptop in the next rung up at about 4,000 range, and some of them pushing 8,000. You clearly were not going to be running a ray trace game at high resolution on this anyway, but it's worth knowing that this laptop is not going to give you the greatest performance for heavy duty, high resolution ray traced gaming performance. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the specs I didn't mention before. I do want to point out the screen is a UHD plus. That is basically 4K, but 16:10 aspect ratio, and it is an OLED panel. It's rated at 400 nits and has a refresh rate of 60 hertz. If you've ever stared at an OLED screen, you just kind of get lost at how black the blacks are. That infinite contrast is just amazing. Also, the battery on this, a pretty fat 83 watt hours when you're combining basically a Core i7 quad-core Tiger Lake with an RTX 3050 that's probably going to be shut down most of the time. You're going to get pretty awesome battery life. In fact, HP Spec's this laptop is about 14 hours of watching video. So it's going to basically clean the clocks of any of the laptops you're seeing in general use, because it's got a large battery and it's got a CPU that's just going to be very lean on power. And the last thing I want to point out, you do get the included pen, active pen, and it is USB-C, which is pretty neat because there's no batteries to have to buy in the middle of the night. You're not going to find them. But I will point out the power brick is not USB-C, so you cannot charge it. So that is a little bit of a faux pas, I guess. But most people do have USB-C chargers. It is a USB-C world these days, so I don't think that's a huge deal. And I think you had a question, Adam?
Do you think they should have just left out the discrete GPU?
No, I don't think so, because I think one of the advantages of having that RTX 3050 is, even though it's obviously unimpressive in gaming, it's very unimpressive in ray tracing performance, it gets you that Nvidia encode engine. And again, if you need CUDA cores, if you need NVInc, you're going to be able to get that out of this laptop, where you would not get that with, say, a straight CPU with integrated graphics or with an MX GPU. So that is actually a nice bonus. So you really could, although it will definitely drag compared to the other laptops here, you can definitely do Premiere. You can do other things that will use that NVInc engine on the discrete. And also, again, you're getting CUDA cores, which there are some applications that just love CUDA. So I think it's valuable to have that as there. I would not consider this a primary gaming laptop whatsoever.
But maybe content creation?
Yeah, and again, if you're going to do Premiere, if you're a video editor, if you're like Adam who's holding this camera right now, I would say go for something bigger, something heavier, more powerful. But not everybody edits video. A lot of people honestly sit there in the browser, they run Office, they fire up Photoshop, and in that, this is actually going to do really well, because Photoshop really doesn't need 14 cores, doesn't benefit from it. Most of the time, it's very lightly threaded. And this Tiger Lake CPU, even though now older than 12th gen, is going to give you very decent performance. So you're getting an OLED, 10-bit OLED, which is just stunning. You're getting pen support, So if you're like, say, an artist or you're a photographer, and there is really a value to having, you know, a convertible laptop, especially with a 16-inch panel. So you get a pen, you get you're getting 16 inches, you're getting an OLED panel. There are a lot of people that find this to be very valuable. And I know it's silly because if you're a clamshell person, you don't get it. But having used a 360 laptop, it's hard for me to go to anything else. Personally, I think it's the best form factor ever. I like having touch in a screen. I think it's awesome. Pen support, I don't always use, but it is nice to have once in a while. But again, so this would be a great laptop to give you good battery runtime. Normal use, Photoshop, just perfect. You're getting a great screen. If you're going to go harder, if you're going to run games, buy something else. If you're going to run Premiere or do a lot of video editing, I would definitely recommend buying something heavier duty. But if you're primarily, say, a still image editor, this can do a lot of the work that you need without buying into the weight of a larger laptop, including slightly higher costs. I'm saying slightly because the last thing I'm going to hit you with is the price of this laptop with a 1 terabyte Optane H10 drive. That's basically Optane with a normal SSD attached to it. The 4K plus panel, OLED, touch, pen, i7 11390H, and an RTX 3050, about $1,700, and 16 gigs of DDR4 for $1,700. That gets you right to the point of getting a very decent gaming laptop, and for a lot of people, those double as content creation laptops because a lot of work that people do is in video. But again, I think if you really want to get an OLED touch convertible and you really don't need the heavy duty CPU and heavy duty GPU, this is a good choice. But if you're gonna go, if you need more power, you're gonna wanna look at something else. For now though, go to PCWorld.com for the full review and come back to our channel for more laptop unboxings and first impressions.